How did hope come into your life?
My team at the place I was working came to me and said, we have this young little girl that is very sick and she's not doing well at all. Mm-hmm. So we looked at her, we took her to the doctor, found that she had a hole in her heart, mm-hmm. and it wasn't going to close. And after that, they asked us what was the next step. And mm-hmm. we said, well, we can't adopt her because you don't allow us to adopt her. Mm-hmm. And they said, no, she's deemed a special needs child and you can't adopt her. So we took Hope into our home. She actually came when she was 5 months old, and mm-hmm. she's never left us from that day. In 2013, my late wife, Dana, was experiencing some tingling in her feet. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't know what it was. We waited, and by the end of the week, she was completely paralyzed from her chest down. So we took her to Nairobi Hospital, mm-hmm. and we had her checked out, and she had metastatic breast cancer. She made it through the surgery, mm-hmm. and 3 months later, she walked. Everything was okay for the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. And then late in December of 2017, mm-hmm. she started not feeling good. She started feeling a little weak and tired. Mm-hmm. And then she started having a little trouble breathing and holding her oxygen. Mm-hmm. So I took her on a Monday to Tenwick Hospital mm-hmm. to have her looked at and diagnosed. And on Wednesday, they told me she was doing better. She'll probably be able to leave and go home on Saturday. So I bought tickets to take her home to the United States.
Okay.
And on Friday morning, she passed away. Let me get one thing straight. I don't need a wife, and Hope doesn't need another mother.
Okay.
And she said, oh, I understand. I said, this is just business. Mm-hmm.
Good day and welcome to our talk show, Hearts Touching Hearts, where we talk to real people with real stories that have a real impact. Do not forget to reach us on our socials that are displayed below on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the alert button so that you can get the latest news on our channel. Now, my name is Bruno. You can call me King. I prefer King. But enough of me talking. Let us get straight to the guest. We have a great guest lined up for you, and I would like for you to meet him. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like for you to introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Dan Jacobs, or Daniel, and I'm here today with my wife, Salome Jacobs, and our daughter, Hope Jacobs.
Welcome so much to the show.
Thank you so much.
So I would like for you to give us a brief history of who you are and how you found yourself in this beautiful country.
Sure. I came in 2005 thinking that it would be a once-in-a-lifetime journey. Mm-hmm. Came on a mission trip with a group and helped work on a baby center. And something just happened inside of me that those babies just really touched my heart. So as soon as I went back to the United States, I signed up for another trip the next year. And in 2006, God did something to my heart. Okay. He told me that he wanted me to come here to Kenya to help these children.
That's nice. It
was a scary thing because I had a family back in the United States, mm-hmm. but I called back and talked to my then wife mm-hmm. and told her I think God's calling us to be missionaries in Kenya. And she wouldn't have any of that. She said, you just need to get back home. Okay. And so we discussed it over the next year, prayed about it. And in 2007, we made a family trip here just to see if that calling was on our hearts. Mm-hmm. And it was, but it was a long journey ahead of us yet.
Mm-hmm. So you said you made a family trip. Was that the nuclear family or plus the extended?
That was, the family trip was my two youngest children at the time mm-hmm. and my late wife. Mm-hmm. And so we came as a family group just to see, because those were the only kids at home at the time.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, a quick question. What about your siblings, if you had any, or your folks? How did they take that news?
They didn't take it very well. They honestly thought something was wrong with us, that maybe we should go see a doctor or a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. because at the time I had just finished building a brand new home that we designed, and it was our dream home. I had a wonderful job working construction as a project manager. Everything was going great, and we were going to change routes here and head over to Kenya.
I can imagine the kind of reaction they had, considering you had a really nice life over there. So you came to Kenya, and you experienced a lot of new stuff for you being in a new country. So can you tell us how that was for you?
Sure. As I was growing up, I was used to eating all different kinds of food. So the food wasn't too bad, although I've experienced some very strange dishes here.
Like what?
Like goat intestine. That's been one of the hardest ones to get used to. But surprisingly, I love goat. And even I prefer that when I go back to the United States. I think one of the most difficult challenges and changes was driving here.
Okay.
Because no one follows the rules. Even though there are rules, they don't follow the rules.
Yeah, it's hectic.
And that's been one of the biggest changes. The climate, we love it. It's much better than where we came from. And one thing that people may not understand is in America, where I come from, the days change throughout the year, the sunlight and the nighttime. But here it's the same. And that was a big change. It's hard to believe it would be, but that was a big change for us.
Okay. And how did the kids take it?
The kids actually took it very well. They enjoyed being a part of our ministry and being with us all the time. They were homeschooled in America, so coming here and doing homeschool wasn't a problem.
Okay.
The place that I worked, I was the only Mzungu or American there. So I worked with about 80 Kenyans. So I was immediately thrown into working with mostly all Africans. And that had its own challenges because, you don't want to bring your preconceived notions of how things need to be done or should be done. But really what we relied on is the Bible helping us through that.
Okay.
To teach biblical principles, not just our principles.
Okay. And you've mentioned that you worked with kids. Now, I'm curious, why specifically children?
That was a calling from God, that God called us to care for orphan and abandoned children. And that was our original calling back in 2006 when we first felt called by the Lord to come. But when you come here and you meet the people and you're with them, we've branched out into other things as well.
Okay.
God just gives you a heart for loving Kenyans, and Kenyans are loving people. They really are.
They are. So, could you please tell us a bit of the things that you branched out into?
Sure. We got into other ministries like dealing with people on the street, dealing with people at hospice center, the cancer center here in Nakuru. We worked on famine relief, and I also did some water projects north in Samburu.
Okay. So as we were coming in, I saw hope, a ball of energy. How did hope come into your life?
Yeah, we like I said, we came in August of 2012, and in December, my team at the place I was working came to me and said, we have this young little girl that is very sick and she's not doing well at all. So we looked at her, we took her to the doctor, found that she had a hole in her heart and it wasn't going to close. So what we needed to do was have her taken to Tenwick Hospital, and they did open heart surgery on her when she was just 7 months old. And after that, they asked us what was the next step, and we said, well, we can't adopt her because you don't allow us to adopt her. And they said, no, she's deemed a special needs child and you can't adopt her. So we took Hope into our home. She actually came when she was 5 months old, and she's never left us from that day.
That is great. How old were the other kids when you took Hope in?
My youngest son was 16. And my daughter was 20, and then I had a 24-year-old in the States, and I had a 25-year-old in the States.
Okay. So, having a new child in your lives, you come prepared. The family is prepared. They see mommy is pregnant, but you come home with a new child who they haven't seen their mom having a belly, signifying that someone new is coming into their lives. So how did they adjust to having a new sibling in their lives?
They, from the first day, they loved Hope, and they looked at her as a sibling. I can say this from my own heart, that adoptive children and biological children, there's no difference. I look at Hope as she's the fifth child, and that's it. There's no other explanation that needs to be made.
Yeah, I can assume the joy that was in your lives, having a new child in your lives.
Yes.
Now, life with Hope was going great, I assume, and the kids and the family took to her really well, as you have said. And how did things take a turn with the missus?
So later that year, in 2013, my late wife Dana was experiencing some tingling in her feet, and so we didn't know what it was. We waited, and by the end of the week, she was completely paralyzed from her chest down. So we took her to Nairobi Hospital, and we had her checked out, and she had metastatic breast cancer. Wow. And that kind of hit us hard because she had had cancer previously, but for 5 years she had been clear, and we didn't understand this. Well, when the doctors looked at her, the Kenyan doctor, a neurosurgeon, he said, she's in bad shape. She might not survive the surgery. Even if she survives the surgery, she will never walk again. Wow. And even if she does that, she'll only live 6 months. Wow. So the prognosis was very grim. But we had a faith in our heart, and God had just given us this peace about the whole situation that we said, no matter what, God is with us, and it's going to be okay. People thought we were delusional. They thought we didn't understand the situation we were in. But no, our faith and our hope was in God. And so she made it through the surgery, and 3 months later she walked.
Wow.
And she went back to doing ministry, went back to her normal life, and no one could even tell that she'd ever been paralyzed. It was truly a miracle. Everything was okay for the next 4 years. And then late in December of 2017, she started not feeling good. She started feeling a little weak and tired. And then she started having a little trouble breathing and holding her oxygen. So I took her on a Monday to Tenwick Hospital to have her looked at and diagnosed. And on Wednesday, they told me she was doing better. She'll probably be able to leave and go home on Saturday. So I bought tickets to take her home to the United States.
Okay.
And on Friday morning, she passed away.
That was sudden.
It was a shock to everyone, the family, friends here in Kenya. They couldn't believe. They thought I was calling to tell them that we're on our way home. And I called to tell them she had passed away.
Oh. And what was the cause?
It was her liver failed due to all of her previous issues. It was a strange and rare thing to happen the way it did, but it was God's timing.
So how did the immediate family take the loss? I can imagine the kids were devastated.
It was really rough because 3 of them were in the United States, and it took me 2 weeks to get home with my late wife's body.
Wow.
So they had to grieve alone for those 2 weeks. And then it was like we had a funeral here, and then we had to start the whole process over in the United States. So it was like double funeral, double grief. And it was very hard, especially when you're apart from a loved one when they pass. There's no real closure until you see them.
Yeah, there isn't really. So let me take you back a bit. You said that when your wife passed, you had hope. How old was Hope then?
Hope at the time was just 4 years old.
Wow.
And so that was a tough age to lose a mom. And if you can imagine, she had already been abandoned at 1 day old by her birth mother. So this was the second mom she was losing.
Wow.
And it had a great impact on her. And we kind of clung to each other. And I said, she's the one that helped me get through it really at the time, because I could focus on her. I could meet all of her needs. and it took my mind off of what I was missing.
Mm-hmm. So you came back into the country, and you had hope because she was not fully adopted by then, as you said. So could you tell me how was you used to being married?
Mm-hmm.
You had a wife for the longest time. Now you find yourself as a widower, and more so a father to a young child.
Mm-hmm.
How is that for you?
Yeah, a father to a young girl, which is not a good thing because people look at it as strange. But the fact was that I had 4 other children. I came back in March of 2018. Dana had passed in January. And I needed to get back quickly. And some people in America didn't understand that. But at the time, Kenya was my home. And that's where she passed, and that's where I needed to grieve. That was our home. That was Hope and I's home. So we came back in March, and we started back up life. It was very difficult. I didn't have any help. I did have a house help that I had brought in 1 day a week. But again, it was one of those things where I'm a widower, and I didn't want to have women in the house because, number one, culturally that would look bad. And even for my own interest, I just didn't feel right with my wife not being there, having a woman in the house for any reason. So Hope and I went it alone for a long time, more than a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, kudos to that. I could only imagine how it feels like to be raising a girl alone. So that happened. You went through that entire process. Now, when did, let me call it, help come into your life?
Sure. I had made several trips back to the United States for my kids' sake, to go back and to help them through the grieving process. And so Hope and I traveled to the United States, just the 2 of us. That's a whole adventure in its own. But in January of 2019, it had been a year since Dana had passed. And I had been adamant, everyone, that I was never going to get married again because I was just hurting so bad. But something in 2018 changed a bit. I came back to Kenya with a little different attitude of that I needed help and that Dana was gone. She wasn't coming back. And I needed to make sure that I wasn't turning her into an idol. I needed to get myself focused back on God and what God wanted me to do. So in April, I was passing by Java, and that's where my friend Salome worked. And her and Hope had been friends since Hope had been born, 4 months old. And so she knew Hope, and she was very down that day, and I didn't understand what was wrong. And so I asked her, I said, "Why do you look so down today?" And she said, "I'm being transferred from here to Naivasha." And my heart sunk because she had been a good friend, and I knew that Hope always asked, "Can I go see Salome at Java?" Especially after Dana had passed, she really clung to Salome. And I'd say, "Sure, we'll go there, and you can hang out with her." So she told me this, and I told her, I said, "Wow, Salome," I said, "Hope's going to be devastated." So I went home that night, and I thought, and I said, "Man, I need help." And Salome's leaving. I said, "Let me call her." So I said, "Can I meet you at KFC at the mall tomorrow on April 30th? These dates and times are burned into my mind. So she met me there, and I said, "Sit down." I said, "We've got something to talk about." I said, "I want to know if you would be interested in staying here in Nakuru and taking a job as Hope's nanny." And I said, "I don't even know if I can pay you enough." I said, "But maybe that, and we can get you some work around, maybe the baby center or something." But I said, "Let me get one thing straight. I don't need a wife, and Hope doesn't need another mother."
Okay.
And she said, "Oh, I understand." I said, "This is just business." So we left there, and we started talking, and a few days later, she came and said she would do it. and she put her resignation in at Java. And I just felt very convicted of how badly I had treated her. So it was about a week later, I called her up and I said, hey, I'm very sorry that I said that to you. If I'm going to ask you to bathe my daughter, to feed my daughter, to tuck her in bed, to do all those things with her, and God allows you and her to have a mother-daughter relationship, I say I'm blessing that. I won't stand in the way, and I should have never said that. And she said, oh, that's okay, no problem. And so we kept talking in the evenings because she was still working at Java, so the only time we could talk is after she got off work. So we'd call her on the phone and we'd talk about life in general and raising children, because I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page of raising Hope if she was going to be such an important part of her life. And about a month into it, I got the courage one night to say, would you be interested in having a relationship with me?
Wow.
And I was so scared to ask that question because I thought, what if she says no? Then I'm going to be in real trouble because she's going to work for me. And yeah.
I think that's a problem all men have when asking someone out.
So she says to me, yes, immediately. And I was like, wow. Okay. So we agreed. We stopped right there. No other conversation about it. I talked to my family. She talks to her family, because this was a big deal. It was a cross-cultural relationship. I was a little older than her, and I had 5 children. And those children have to be on board with this.
Yeah.
So to make about a month-long story short, everyone gave their blessing.
Really?
Yeah, everyone, absolutely, 100% gave their blessing on both sides.
It must have been a sigh of relief for you.
Oh, yes. And it was a sign from God that it was ordained by him, I believe.
Yeah.
So we started the process, and we were moving quickly. We actually got married in September of that same year, just about 5 months later, 4.5 months. And then Salome came into my life, and we started ministry together. Now, she has a background of missions in her family too, so we started doing the ministry together.
Okay.
And that went on for a while, and then we changed organizations because of different issues and things. And then in early 2020, we were stuck in the United States because of COVID. Okay. But God had a plan for us there too, because we were able to start our own ministry in America, and we started it also here in Kenya. It's called Hope for Family Incorporated. We used Hope's name, but it signals many things. It has many meanings, but we bring hope to people that don't have hope. Okay. And so we also have Hope for Family Kenya Trust here in Kenya.
So it's only now that it hits me, Hope's name. How and why did you choose that?
Actually, the name came on her birth certificate as Hope. That's what the birth mother wanted her to be called. And we thought it was a very appropriate name, because Hope's life has all been about hope. She was rescued from an abandoned mother. She was rescued from a hole in her heart. She was rescued from not having a family. Hope's just had time after time that she's been rescued. She has a wonderful God story herself.
Now, let me take you back to where we were. You said that Hope clung to Salome after your wife passed. Now, how did the dynamics change when now you are introducing to Hope to Salome as your wife? How did she take that?
It did change it considerably, because now she's not just a friend and a playmate. Now she's mom. And so that relationship definitely changed. Some ways better, some ways worse. Hope is, as I said, special needs. It's more than just the hole in her heart. She has ADHD. And so she's a very difficult child to handle. It was funny because many times I told the people at Java, starting with Salome, that not to cater to Hope's every whim, because you're creating a monster for me here. Well, when Salome came into the house and started caring for Hope, she saw exactly what I meant. She saw the other side of that.
Okay. Now, I'm curious, for people who do not know what ADHD is, could you please explain it to them?
It's a attention deficit hyperactive disorder. And what it means is the child has a very hard time focusing, sitting still. When Hope was first diagnosed with it, you couldn't get her to sit for 3 minutes to do anything. Now she's much better. We homeschool her, and we have seen a significant change in her life, especially in the last 6 months.
Fast forward to when you decided. First of all, how did you propose?
So we decided that after we got permission from the families that I wanted to do something a bit special. So I picked her up one morning and I said, we're going to go someplace special. So we went to Nakuru Game Park. And she didn't know, but I was going to propose to her up on Lion Hill. And as we're driving in, here's 2 male lions walking beside us on the road. Just beautiful. I mean, something that you don't see every time.
Really
Again,
don't.
God wanted to give us a special time. So we went up on top of Lion Hill. And, you know, even though we both knew what was coming, we both knew that I was going to ask and she was going to say yes, it was still a very special and emotional time because it was like, finally, it's real.
Now, she says yes. Great for you. But now you have to deal with the family. And you know, in the African culture, there are a lot of ceremonies to be performed. That's the only thing I can call it. Now, could you please tell us how that was for you?
One thing we wanted for everyone to understand is that we're not her culture, we're not my culture. We've created a new culture, really. But still, we wanted to honor traditions. And so I went for the dowry meeting. I took my adopted Kenyan family with me, and we went to see the family. And again, Salome was just a bit different in a very good way. The dowry was going okay, but it was just a bit of a shock to me because I had never experienced anything like that. And she came in the middle of it and asked me how it was going, which was culturally not acceptable, but she wanted to make sure things were okay. And I told her, oh, it's okay, but it's not as good as I thought. So she went out and she interjected herself into the discussions and told them to behave themselves for my sake, that I had been through enough. So right then and there, I knew that she was a strong woman and that she was the wife for me.
Wow. You're a lucky man. You're a lucky man. So you do the negotiations. Upon her interjection, things go well, I assume. Now, how was the wedding?
Well, we, like I said, the negotiation went well. Her family is a wonderful Christian family anyways. So I think they were just messing with me a bit. But after that, we just had a wonderful time. In preparation for the wedding, which was to take place on September 15th, Salome and I did most of the planning and everything. And we had invited 100 close friends because we knew that if we went any further out, it could get very big. So we were trying to keep it to a small, very nice wedding. 400 showed up. Wow. And again, this is Kenya, this is Africa. Yeah, you're used to that. But thankfully, our caterer had planned for 450.
Really?
So we had plenty of food. It was a wonderful, beautiful day. We did the whole thing where I went and picked her from the house. We negotiated that morning with the mom and the aunt. And at first, of course, they said, no, I couldn't have her. But I said, go easy on me, okay? I've had a rough few months. Then we went and had just a beautiful ceremony and beautiful reception. And it was a perfect day. God gave us a perfect day.
Yeah, I call that divine providence. Planning for 100 and then 400 show up only to have the caterer plan for 450. Divine providence. Now, was that the only ceremony you had?
No, we actually, one of my daughters was able to come to Kenya to be at the wedding to represent the American family, which was wonderful to have one of them. And then she just reiterated at the reception that the whole family welcomed Salome into the family. She was kind of being the ambassador on that. But we still wanted to go back because my mom and dad weren't able to travel to come. So in December, we went to the United States to have a ceremony there. Just a small ceremony with our close family. And but it was the first time Salome had got to go to the United States. Of course, Hope was with us, but Hope had been there 6 or 7 times before. She was a veteran. But my family just fell in love with Salome. And when we left, it was very hard because she even missed him. To come back. So when you're a third culture couple is what they would call us, because we live in 2 different cultures, you never feel like you're quite at home anywhere. You're here, and then you're always saying goodbye to someone. So that makes our time together very special.
Okay. It's good that we have Salome around. She will talk to us. But before that, I would like you to talk to people out there who have gone through similar situations or who are going through similar situations as you were.
I guess I would say first that the only person that can get you through the loss of a spouse is God. And leaning on God 100% was the only way that I made it through. And as I prayed for God to take away the pain, to heal my heart, I had a specific way that I was praying that I thought God would do it. But God had a different plan. And I would just pray that anyone out there that's in a similar situation, that maybe has lost a spouse and maybe you still have children at home, don't count God out. Let God direct you. Be open to his leading. When Salome came into my life, in that kind of context, I didn't believe it at first. I didn't believe it could be true. But God had a different plan. He had someone that he was going to bring into my life that would help me with my family, be a part of my expectations, my dreams, our ministry. And just don't count God out. Listen to what God has to say to you, because he healed my heart in a way I never thought he could. And Salome has truly been a blessing. I've been a blessed man twice now, and I thank God for it.
Okay. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for giving us that inspiring message at the end. And you're truly an inspiration to people out there. Yeah. So on the other side of the break, we are going to have Salome here with us. She's going to speak to us, give us her opinion from her side. So let us meet on the other side of the break. Have a good one.